Yo guys, what is going on? Lucky Cheese 7 is back again to give you guys my live reaction slash review. Did I say live reaction? Oh my god. Ah, wow, you're just started off and I'm already going back to how I used to do my stream. What was it, 2015? Shit, it's been a long time. But live stream discussion slash review. Let me correct myself there, first and foremost. Number two, we're on chapter 270 of Eden Zero. That's still crazy for me to just take into account. Like we are on chapter 270 of Eden Zero. And the question I think a lot of people have in mind is how long exactly do we have left of the series? Because, well, as of November, for those of you that don't know, Volume 29 came out, and the cover for Volume 30 dropped, I want to say back in December. I want to say that. But it was kind of a reused color spread that we got from 266, which isn't exactly a huge, shock, if you will, that Hero decided to go with that approach, because he kind of did the same thing with Fairy Tale. When you look at, say, the Alvarez arc, I forget what I want to say. This was volume 52. I'm pretty sure it was 52. 52 was like the volume cover where you have like that colors where you have Zero from the background and everything. Um, and you had a color page like that in Fairy Tale within that same volume. So, I mean, is it kind of a bummer that we don't kind of get kind of like the usual format we've been getting with like the Eden Zero volumes where they have their own little, own little flair, their own little design to it? Yeah, it does kind of suck, sure. But at the same time, you gotta ask yourself just how much of Eden Zero do we have left? Because I will say this Volume 30, if I'm getting my estimations correctly on this, 30 ends off on chapter 266. Okay? And where we are currently is 270. So we're only 3 chapters into volume 31. And if I'm taking that into approach, that means 275, by all accounts, should be the last chapter of volume 31. By all accounts. Oh, that's going to happen. So, I mean, we've still got at least, 5 chapters left? Give or take before volume 30 wraps up. And it's interesting, honestly. But let's just get onto the chapter because I'm 3 minutes in. I haven't even talked about what the chapter is about. So, where we last left off with Eden Zero is Valkyrie and Homura took out Brigadine. First and foremost, Brigadine got taken out. And then you had Acnoella, which was Acnoella kind of a disappointment in being taken out the way she did? Yes and no. And I say yes and no simply because it's not like Homura took out Acnoella in her base form. Like if it was base Homura taking out Acnoella, I would have had a little bit more of an issue there. But because it was her, using, oh my god, overdrive, yeah. Well, because it was her using that, I think it sort of levied the situation somewhat, to a certain degree. Yes, I will say that. Now, the fight with Brigadine and Valkyrie, I think that was probably better handled, in my opinion, because you had one fight where it was like, okay, I can kind of see where Hero was going for. It probably ended too quickly, but sure, fine. That one was kind of lesser compared to the Valkyrie and Brigadine fight, which has been going on for a while. Not to say the Homura and Valkyrie fight didn't go on, but if you think about it, uh, the Homura and Acnoella fight, like that technically like just went down. Whereas Valkyrie and Brigadine, that's been kind of like that scuffle's been going on for like a while. We just didn't pay a lot of attention to it until like that last chapter. So if I gave the last chapter to like okay plus to good rating, maybe good plus, where are my chances on this chapter? Which is, I think, the interesting question because 270 open up. Get this nice, beautiful cover art of Homura. I said Homura of Hermit. See the straight. You got Hermit, working on some digital stuff. Being tech savvy. Chapter title's called The Hermit Special. Eden Zero Emergency Shutdown. All systems offline. You got Ivory saying yes. Moscow's like just covering his mouth. You got Witch. This should prevent the ship from self-destructing. And here's the thing: even though this is what happens, okay, the ship is shut down, right? But the timer's still going off. And Hermit notices this. Like, what? Why? Like, why is the timer still counting down? And Killa says this: "You are such an idiot. My guess, no, my plan was to get you to shut down your ship all along, so I could ram it with the one." And you got Ivory saying what, Witch saying no, and Herman saying it was a trap, rebooting systems. And Killa says it's too late. Like as he rams the Eden's one into the Eden Zero, it says your space dust. And like as that goes on, you see what's happening. You got Ivory's reaction, you got Witch's reaction, you got Hermit. Killer's like laughing off in the corner, and Moscow's like, "It must stopped." And Hermit says, "Wait, what is happening?" You see the digital space, and she's like, "Is that? I can't believe you were so obsessed with your little plan that you didn't even notice the one was getting boarded. You must be pretty stupid." And it is Weisz coming in to save the day. Weisz comes in like punches Killer, and Killer's like, "Wait, you Hermit? What? Weisz? How did you access my digital space?" And Weisz just simply says, "I dived in. My body's asleep on the Eden Zero." And he's like, "But the Eden Zero shut down. The dive bots can't be functioning." And Weisz simply says, "I built my own special dive pod. It is empowered by the Eden Zero." And I know some people want to say, might probably look at that and drop a comment on, "Yo, that is an ass pull move." When you consider who Weisz is as a character, given that like he is like the scientist, a tech of like the human core within the Eden Zero ship, like right alongside Hermit, who's also pretty tech savvy, it's not a stretch to take that as a scenario of like, okay, that does fit with Weisz as a character, so it fits. And then you get the watch. Alrighty. I still owe you one for taking me down to the last world, which, by the way, yes, that is something we have to take into account too, is that when Killer and Weisz faced off last time, Killer kind of had the upper hand. So there's that. But Weisz goes back into Arsenal mode and he says, "Time for some comeback. Comeback, payback. Arsenal Mark Zero." And he says, "You think you can beat me in digital space executing weapon generator script?" As he goes in for the assault, Weisz goes in too. And Weisz still says, do I think you can be beaten in the digital world?" And Killer, like, is like all shocked, has like the sweaty face and everything. And Hermit says, "Who do you think you're talking to? Do you think you can be us in a digital world?" She's not just referring to herself. She's referring to her and Weisz, which it's a pretty big, like, if I remember correctly, I think the ship name is called Hermit. It's a pretty big like Hermit moment between the two of them. It's not as big as I would say when Weisz, like takes off his arsenal mode and you have like Hermit blushing. It's not as big as that, but it's nice. It's a nice like feel good moment, I would say, between the two of them. But you got her using all of her tech savvy skills, typing away at everything, and then you got Weisz in arsenal mode with wings behind him. And Killa's like, "What? Arsenal Mark Zero custom built." And Hermit does Hermit special. He goes in for the attack. What? And essentially, it just kind of makes a dent onto the killer. Dual Metallica explosion, knocking them out. You got Weisz, got Hermit, like just like, well, Weisz you can't really tell, but you can bet he's probably smirking, much like how Hermit is in that scene. And then you got the Eden's one with the Eden Zero, and he says, "Damn it, I'll start the program over." And again, he's on the Eden's one, and there's someone behind him. That won't be necessary. And you see like the splash of water, which obviously an indication that it is Laguna, and Laguna is behind him. You've already lost. And let me just say this right now. Laguna already? So far, this battle with the Eden's one arc, he's taking dubs, okay? He is taking some massive W's within this arc so far. Like, you took care of Lightning Law, now you took. To be fair, it was a group effort. It's not like Killer was single handedly taken out by Laguna. It was a matter of fact of like, you had Hermit and Weisz teaming up to take out Killer. But then, like, in the physical sense, you had Laguna also taking out, like, Killer from, moving forward from what he needed to do. And I think in that aspect, that's where this chapter really shines, is that it was kind of like a somewhat of a group effort. You had Hermit who was taking things on her end of things with Killer, Weisz doing the same thing, providing the assistance to Hermit in taking out Killer from a digital standpoint. And again, Laguna just taking the finishing blow to Killer from a physical stance, which shows. It really shows, and I think Hero did a really, really great job in showcasing that. The one negative I will give this chapter, okay, and I wouldn't really say it's like a huge negative. I would say it's more of like a missed opportunity. The one missed opportunity I would say this chapter has, and probably I would say with the previous chapter, is that we haven't really gotten a whole lot on that 20,000 years in the past ordeals, kind of like with what we got with Witch, because I would have assumed that these connections, like with the Dark Stars, that you would have gotten something between Valkyrie and Brigadine, like maybe like at the tail end of their fight, and likewise you get something between Hermit and Killer with their ordeal in the 20,000 years in the past. And before anybody says, "Well, Hero probably didn't just come up with them," that's not true, because again, we go as far back as, say, Volume 3 of the Afterward section of Eden Zero. And he said this multiple times, so not just Volume 3, but he said this, like, repeatedly. like here and there throughout each of the volume afterwards, is that he already had like the outline of Eden Zero, like kind of already planned out, like bullet points, if you will. Like think of it like this. Think of it as like spark notes, where you got like the basic through line, like bullet points as to like, all right, here is where the events are going to occur. Not necessarily occur. Well, let me rephrase that. Here are the events in the story. These are like the big significant moments of the story of Eden Zero. He's already had that mapped out. But the one thing he always said about Eden Zero is that when it comes to connecting the dots, that is where he was going to have the more fairy tale like approach. Where how he connect those dots is where it's going to be more engaging, more enticing from a weekly standpoint. And I can't blame him for taking that approach. I really can't, because in a weird way, you kind of have it's a double edged sword, kind of, if you think about it, because you have the one side from Fairy Tale where Hero didn't necessarily plan out the story all the way. He had the backstory of all the characters, versus say Rave Master, where he had like everything planned. Like he had the not just the main point of the story, but he knew like how each thing was going to fall in place. Whereas with this, Eden Zero, he knows the story, he knows the end point. It's just about connecting the dots to those endpoints, and where he's, I wouldn't say struggling with this. It's more so like, okay, again, the more enticing aspect within the story. But I will say that I don't necessarily believe that we're not going to see anything from the 20,000 years in the past with the Dark Stars, and like specifically with Valkyrie and Hermit. I don't believe for a fact that Hero's going to completely like sweep the under the rug. I do have this strong sense of feeling that we're going to see something regarding both Valkyrie's 20,000 years in the past flashback and with her. I get a feeling we're going to get something there too. Now, what that's going to be, I have no idea. But that, so far, I will say, between the last chapter and this chapter, that is the one, like, uh, criticism I will say that this chapter does have. But overall, that aside, this chapter of Eden Zero, chapter 270, the first chapter of 2024, I will say it's a great chapter. It is a great chapter of Eden Zero. Again, not perfect, not amazing. It's great. It's a great chapter. Good start off to the year. And it, I've said this last year, and I'm going to repeat it here. I don't necessarily believe that Eden Zero is going to extend past this year. I really don't. Because if you look at the pieces and where everything is in place, we are currently, again, on chapter 270. And if we look at that and see with where we are at, in my opinion, I think 300 is where we're going to end off the story. I believe chapter 300 will be like the closing point of what we have left of Eden Zero, because we still have to know about Shiki's origins, like where he came from. Now, we do know for a fact that Hero is kind of building up to, not Weisz, but oh my god, Witch. There we go. Witch and Wizard being the parents of Shiki. That's what we're being built up to. And keeping that in mind, again, if we know the whole concept of parents and, in Mashima's like stories, okay? Whether it's Rave Master, whether it's Fairy Tale, and now this, okay? Shoot, if we want to take parents into account, look at Dead Rock. Look at what happened in Dead Rock Chapter 5, okay? I haven't talked about Chapter 6, and I will get to that at some point. But if you look at Chapter 5 of Dead Rock and what happens with Yakuto's parents, parents do not have the kind of outcomes in any of Hiro Mashima's story, okay? With the exception of Rebecca. Rebecca's like the only person, I will say, whose parents are still alive. And I'm not saying that's bad, okay? I'm not saying it's bad to like say, yo, forget the parents. No. I think it's actually kind of cool that you do have her parents being alive. I'm just saying when you take those uh that specific element of the story into account and how Hiro has always written the roles of the parents in his stories, you kind of get an idea of like, okay, like we already knew kind of went out once, but given that, I really don't believe that Witch is gonna be fine, Wizard's gonna be fine. Like I get this strong sense of feeling that by the time this is all over, like Witch and Wizard are gonna go out. Much like with Ziggy too, by the way. Ziggy right now is still currently taking on Void, and again, bringing back patterns. Okay, Haru and his father Gale. Okay, like we reunited with Gale, and Gale like went out like a G. Okay, not to reunited with like Neil. Went out like he took. Here's the Igneal did not go out like unhanded. Like he took off an arm, but in the process, Igneal like lost. He was gone. This case, you have Void, okay, and you have Ziggy, and I do feel I've been saying this for weeks. Ziggy's gone. Like this is cool. In a way, you can say this is like Ziggy's redemption. Like Ziggy's gonna take on Void, take on like all the responsibility that he had. And what's gonna happen is he's gonna go out again. Except this time he's not gonna go out as the villain. He's gonna go out as the hero. It's like what Harvey Dent always says in Dark Knight. You either die a hero or you live long enough to seeing yourself become the villain. Okay? That happened with Ziggy in Universe 3. Universe 2 technically. But you know what I mean. That happened with Ziggy. Now you're seeing the opposite end of the spectrum, where you now have this with Ziggy, where now he's back, he's shouldering, what happened, and it's like when you really sit down and think about it, it's kind of deep. It's honestly really really deep when you like sit down and like actually take into account with what's happened in the story. And honestly, I cannot wait. I really cannot wait to see what Hero has in store for us for the remainder of the series, and especially with just where we are at currently, because I have no idea with what he's planning, and especially with what he said in one of his latest interviews. He did state that, yeah, I'll make a promise that is not gonna end as badly. Like it's not gonna have like a super tragic ending. When I mean bad ending, I mean by tragic. It's not gonna have like a super tragic ending, which he said is not gonna be as much of a tragedy. So that tells me we're gonna get some tragedy here coming too. I That feeling is there. Now, who's gonna go out? Who's not gonna go? I mean, I already said my piece on that, but again, we still got a ways to go. We still got a ways to go with Eden Zero. It's going to be interesting to see with what goes down. And aside from that, you guys, I mean, at this point, I'm just rambling on. But let me know what you guys thought about this chapter. How do y'all feel about it? Did y'all like with what went down with, Hermit and Weisz like tag teaming and taking down Killer like from the digital sense, and then Laguna sweeping in to take him out in the physical. Like, did you think that was kind of cool, or do you think, maybe Hero could have built up a little bit more and saved it into the next chapter? And do you guys think we could have gotten something regarding the 20,000 years in the past with Hermit and Killer, at least in this chapter? And aside from that, you guys, that's pretty much all I got to say when it comes to this chapter of Eden Zero. Like I said before, it is a great chapter, great start off to the new year, and I cannot wait. I really cannot wait and see what we get moving forward with the series. And aside from that, guys, that's pretty much it. I'm Lucky7. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more Eden Zero, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace.